Hi, my name is Stephen Gaudino. I work with the programs team at Guidepost Montessori, and I'm here to answer some of the top questions from parents about our elementary program. What will my child learn in a Montessori elementary classroom? Students in an elementary setting learn a lot. If you look at, for example, what students are expected to learn in language, math, science, and history, students learn that content generally about 1 to 3 years ahead of their peers. And the reason they're able to do that is not because the speed is a particular goal. It's actually just a consequence of having a rigorous academic program. It's the way that they study the content that enables them to progress so quickly. Because when they learn something, they build a solid foundation in which they actually derive the knowledge themselves. They're not just memorizing what they've been told and being expected to reproduce it. They actually do original work from the knowledge that they've developed. This enables them to understand it much more deeply and be able to then build on that knowledge much more fluently. So they're not constantly being retaught material year after year, but rather they're focused on building off of the solid foundation that they've gained. How do students learn in a Montessori classroom? How students learn in an elementary Montessori setting begins with a strong scope and sequence that the Montessori Elementary program provides. Instead of a general lecture that's given to the entire class, the guide works with students one-on-one and in small groups based on the prerequisites that they've studied before. This enables the guide to customize rigor for each individual child, giving them the most challenging content that they're ready for and helping them progress to more and more complex ideas.
If students are learning at their own pace, how do you assess their progress over time?
We assess students in their learning in 4 primary ways. First, when the students are learning the lessons, we observe how they're learning, we see the work that they're doing in the learning process, and we determine whether or not they've actually internalized the concepts as they're learning the lesson. Then after that point, the students are expected to independently work on the content. So we observe the students while they work independently to see to what extent have they actually internalized it and are able to produce independent work using those concepts that they've just recently studied. From that point, they bring together both the lessons that they learned in that content as well as other lessons that they've learned to create big work, to do projects, to actually execute original work that they've come up with themselves and that reinforce the concepts that they learned. We also have the students take standardized assessments in upper elementary, so IXL, MAP test, DIBELS, just to make sure that they're able to transfer their knowledge to that particular format. Ultimately, we want to make sure that they have the level of depth that they can transfer it to any type of context in which they might be operating. It's not the goal of their education. The goal is not to be able to do well on an exam. It's to be able to do things with the knowledge that you have and produce work and do projects. But it is good to make sure that they are able to transfer that knowledge to different areas where they might be operating.
In Montessori classrooms, why are students of different ages grouped together?
The reason why multi-age classrooms are so critical is because it enables students to progress from being new and learning new things within the classroom compared to their peers to becoming relatively an expert in the content in their final years in that classroom. And so they get the full cycle of learning how to learn from others and their peers within the classroom to being able to be a leader who has gained knowledge and skill and is a leader because of the knowledge and skill that they've learned to then be able to help support the younger students coming in. This cycle is a cycle that they're going to experience again and again, not only in their academic schooling, but also as they get older and go into new fields and study there as well. So the students are then able to see what does it mean to grow, how growth happens through working hard over a period of time, and how that leads to leadership and expertise within a domain. Will my child be able to transition to a public school or a traditional setting after being in a Montessori environment? A child will absolutely be able to be successful in a traditional setting or a public school because what it means to be able to be successful in a new setting is exactly the set of skills that you develop in a Montessori setting. So for example, being able to manage yourself, being able to execute, do projects, work with others to accomplish goals. All of these things you learn in a Montessori setting. All of the content that you would need in order to be successful in the next stage. You learn in the Montessori setting, often multiple years before your peers would in a traditional setting. The only real difference that they're going to need to get used to is the type of micromanagement that you often see in a traditional setting. They've already learned the skills to be able to manage themselves, so now they're going to be in an environment where that type of autonomy and agency isn't granted to them to the same extent, which is an adjustment to make, but it's certainly an easier adjustment to make than learning the skills of executive functioning and being able to manage yourself that they now have already developed.